I'm Frederik Vercruysse. I'm based in Antwerp, Belgium. I'm a photographer, and my work is mainly situated in interior and still life photography. Let me tell you a bit about how I started. I had a camera from a young age, and I took pictures of all kinds of subjects. And outside of photography, I was especially passionate about architecture, drawing, and design. But I didn't really realize this when I was young, I think. At that time, I hadn't yet made the connection or the link between photography and architecture. First, I planned to study architecture until I realized that I was more interested in the result, in the image of architecture, less in the design process. Fortunately, I realized quite quickly that I'm an image maker and not a designer or an engineer. So in this case, I wasn't attracted to the unknown, literally. Architecture, design exist. I wasn't really attracted in the design process of creating from scratch. I was more interested in showing the visual results of a space, of a material, telling a story, or showing or creating an atmosphere in my own language. That was the goal, and that's still mainly the goal in my work. Later, when I started creating still lifes, I was particularly interested in building at a micro level. So I started playing the architect. So the unknown became more and more important for me. Of course, as a photographer, we almost constantly step into the unknown. Literally, as a photographer, we come to places we have never visited before. We have new encounters. We also very often have to adapt our technical skills to the situation or the result we want. We work for commercial clients with certain expectations that led us to into the unknown. But I think this is the kind of unknown that everyone knows in everyday life, in any job, hobby, or in human activity in general. When Brebeeld asked me to tell something about how I deal with photography and the unknown, I immediately thought of a project from a few years ago, 5 years ago exactly. I was invited by the Villa Foundation for an artist residency in the middle of beautiful Tuscany. And this was a period just after my exhibition, Compositions. This exhibition showed my first still lifes with everyday objects. And my plan for my artist residency was to continue this series in their studio on the beautiful estate. However, after a few days there, I was dealing with a block, like a writer's block. The studio was perfect. There were many objects and rubbish that I found around the studio and in the villa where I stayed. And there was fantastic nature. And I think it was precisely that environment that caused me to block. I wanted to go out. I wanted to be in nature, in the mountains. I started to get nervous and I was trying and testing everything to stick to the plan. Yes, I had a plan. I knew what I wanted, but yeah, it didn't work out. There was simply no result. That was the first time in my life, and of course that was not the intention. I was in Tuscany with a goal. I had 1 month to expand full-time my still life work, and to explore all the possibilities. After a week, my wife came to visit with our two children, and she felt my frustration grow, and she made me realize that there was no obligation to create still lives. She made me realize that I had to look around, and that I had to look what inspired me and fascinated me there. Through this intervention, I regained a clear view of my artist residency, and I investigated what really intrigued me there in Tuscany. Yeah. When driving around there in Tuscany, I had already seen the marble quarries of Carrara a few times between the mountain peaks, and those cut mountains inspired me a lot, even without ever seeing them up close. But I heard that it was very difficult to get permission to photograph the quarries. Official reasons were safety, but apparently they prefer not to have too many visitors in the non-tourist areas. We think because their business doesn't always tolerate spectators. But Filalena introduced me to an English art history teacher at the Academy of Florence, a guy who regularly visited the marble quarries with his sculpture students. And on a drizzly Sunday, we went together to Carrara, and he guided me under and over fences on difficult roads to the right places, and he showed me how to get into certain areas. And I went back a few times, and I was always very concentrated when I was shooting there, because I was completely taken over by this immense beauty. But in the meantime, I had to make sure that the security didn't notice me. In short, all very exciting, because I didn't have permission and I was completely alone there in those immense hewn spaces. But finally, I got a result from my residency that I hadn't expected. I combined this imagery with other work that I also made during my residency, and this resulted in my series Tempo Polveroso, with an exhibition and a publication. Letting go of expectations and embracing the unknown when it gets stuck in the head. For me, this is one of the many lessons in which I have learned that the unknown and the unfamiliar give a photographer new and different insights. It can also push work to another level, and in general also a nice lesson in life.